Thinking about your keyword phrases. Before you actually sit down and design your website, you should think about the sort of phrases people are going to use within the search engines to find your particular website. So what you should do is make a widest list as possible of the sort of phrases people are going to type in. You should talk to your customers, talk to your staff, talk to friends, families, just about anyone you can think of, and ask them, well, if they were going to search for your particular website, what phrase would they type in to find it? Competitor keywords. You can investigate your competitors and examine their websites and just see what sort of phrases they use within their websites, what's actually displayed within the text on their websites, and you might find that they've thought of phrases or combination of words that you haven't thought of, or maybe alternative phrases. And you can also look behind the scenes and sort of see what they put in their code maybe in terms of keywords. Now here's a typical website. It's actually a website that will show you the sort of things you shouldn't do within a website. So it's called badwebsites.com.au. But the point is, if I was a competitor to this company, what I could do is I could go to an empty part of the website and right click, and as you can see you have this pop-up. The actual pop-up you see will vary depending on what sort of browser you're using. So it might say something like view source, or in this case it says view page source. If I click on that, up comes the code behind the actual page. So as you can see, there is this section at the top. Not all websites have this, but a lot of them will, and it's what's called the keyword meta tags. Now it's important when we're talking about keywords, there are two types of keywords. There's meta keyword tags, which are illustrated here. Now it's important to realize that these meta keyword tags were important for SEO maybe 5 years, certainly 10 years ago. But these days, Google completely ignores this. So this isn't a trick to help with your SEO. It won't do you any harm. It just won't do you any good. But the point is, a lot of competitor websites will still have this tag within them. And it generally starts with meta name equals, then you've got keywords. And basically what you've got are a list of phrases. In this case, it's just three phrases. There could be literally dozens. And the idea is you can look at your competitor websites and basically highlight this information and copy it into a list within Microsoft Word. So in this particular case, this website is all about the commonly made mistakes that people use when they're creating a website. So as you can see, the keyword meta tags in this case are bad web design, common website errors, and also website mistakes. Now, as I said, this will have no effect whatsoever on your SEO. A lot of people think it does. Google completely ignores this. But the point is, you can go to competitor websites, and if they're still using these meta keyword tags, then, as I say, in this case, you can get a list of phrases. So in this case, it's bad website design, common website errors, and website mistakes. So basically, there's three phrases there that you can put into your list, which in this particular case might be relevant to being used as keyword phrases to get found with this particular website. And you'll find that probably the majority of websites still have this item within the header. You'll notice, we'll talk about this in a second, but you'll notice that there is this header area at the top of the code. The header area is not actually displayed on the website. It's really there for Google's benefit. So as I say, that's a really nice way of investigating your competitors and basically seeing what sort of keywords they think is important. Keyword research using Google AdWords. Now once you've got a list of keyword phrases, either ones you've made up or ones that you've borrowed from competitor websites, you can then use a tool called Google AdWords, and this will show you how many people actually search each month using a particular phrase. So what I've done here is I've fired up the Google AdWords tool. You can use this, it's totally free. If you want to investigate it yourselves, just simply search Google for the phrase Google AdWords and you'll find that. You can sign up for this if you want to, or you can use it actually without signing up. And the whole point of this tool is that you can type in some phrases and see how many people search each particular month for a particular phrase. So let's say I was a plumber in Perth. I could type in something like Perth plumber. And then I could type in something like Perth plumbing. Now obviously you could type in a lot more phrases than this, but I've just typed in 2 just to illustrate the point. And if I click on where it says search, basically as you can see we've got Perth plumber here, and what this shows me is that internationally 8,100 people search for this, and locally 6,600 search for this. Global basically means those are worldwide, so in this particular case the phrase is Perth plumber, so that would take in something like Perth Australia and Perth Scotland and any other Perths, whereas the local search, that basically means within Australia. So this is showing me that each month approximately 6,600 people search using the exact phrase Perth plumber. It also shows me that approximately 8,100 people search using the phrase Perth plumbing. Now you might not have thought there'd be much difference, but as you can see there is actually quite a wide difference. You know, there's an extra 2,000 or so search for the phrase Perth plumbing rather than Perth plumber. So immediately you can start homing in on the keywords that get the most attention, the most searches. Another nice feature is if I click where it says keyword ideas, what this shows me is all the related phrases that Google knows about, because Google's very good at joining up the dots within the internet searches. So for instance, we've told it we're interested in Perth plumbing and Perth plumber, and it's automatically, without any prompting, displayed a whole load of related phrases. So as you can see in this case, plumbing Perth has approximately 8,100. Plumbers in Perth, approximately 6,600. And then you've got other ones here, which is roof plumbers Perth, only 390. A lot of your competitors might now be doing their own SEO, because increasingly people are realizing that SEO is not something that's complicated. You just need to know what you're doing, and you need good information. And once you've got that, you can do it yourselves. So a lot of your competitors might be looking at this and saying, well, 6,600 people search for this phrase here, that's the one we want to go for. So you might find a lot of your competitors are optimizing their websites for those sort of phrases, whereas roof plumbers Perth, they might say, well, there's only 390 looking for that for each month, so they might not be too keen on that one. Now, if on the other hand your speciality is actually roof plumbers Perth, then rather than being saddened by that, it's actually good news, because you'll find, as I say, a lot of the competitors will go for what are called the trophy phrases. So they'll go for the phrases associated with big numbers. So this one here, or this one here, or that one there, or that one there. If on the other hand, if you're starting off, if you go for the phrases that are not quite so popular in terms of the number of searches, you're going to find it easier to get found on that particular phrase ahead of your competitors. And if you're a small plumbing company, maybe it's just a very, very small company starting off, if you can attract 390 visitors to your website and a percentage of those get converted into customers, how many customers do you actually need? You don't need 8,000. 390 inquiries a month would be more than sufficient. Now, obviously, this doesn't guarantee you'll get that number of inquiries. It just simply shows you how many searches are made per month. But you can use this tool basically to investigate what people search for and the numbers of searches that are made. And also, if you go down here, you can find alternative phrases. So, for instance, there's a phrase here, plumbers in Perth, WA. Again, only about 390 search for that. But again, you might want to start off by optimizing for those particular phrases and then start working up to the trophy phrases. That's really how you should use this tool. So as I say, if you want to do this yourself, just search for Google AdWords within Google. You'll find the relevant page, and basically you can take it from there. Using your keyword phrases within your website. Once you've got your list of phrases together that you're quite happy with, you then need to think, well, how do I actually apply these within my website so I can get Google's attention? Now, the first obvious thing is you've got to use those phrases within the text as displayed on your website. So, for instance, if you've got a website that's about a plumbing service in maybe Joondalup in Perth, WA, you should use the words plumbing, plumbers, and variations on that. You should use the phrase Joondalup, Perth, WA, and associated phrases as well. And basically what you want to do is try and build all of these phrases into your website in a natural sounding way. What you don't want to do is just have a list of suburbs. For instance, we're a plumbing service and we operate in blah, 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 because that doesn't sound natural. That sounds like you're trying to stuff the page with keywords, and Google is on the lookout for that now. So a good rule of thumb is you should basically create text within your website that then you can give to someone and say, can you read that? Does that sound natural? And if it sounds natural to somebody reading it, then it'll probably sound okay to Google. So as I say, don't take the approach where you've got to cram every single thing onto your home page. What you should do is say, well, if I've got, for sake of argument, 15 different pages, you should have some pages focused maybe on plumbing in Perth, and other pages maybe focused on plumbing in Joondalup, and possibly other ones for plumbing in WA. But don't try and cram all of that onto the one page. Certainly if it's just a list of keyword phrases, Google will not like that at all. Now, there's various areas in which you can insert the keywords apart from just simply in your text. So for instance, in the web page title, you can put your keywords in there. In the web page description, you can put your keywords in there. There are things called headers, which are basic ways of marking text on your pages. You can put your keywords in those. There's something else called alt tags, or alternative text, which basically are a list of keywords hidden behind your images. You can put those in there. You can also insert the keywords or keyword phrases into your file names or your folder names used on the website. And lastly, the actual domain itself, the URL, the name of the website, that can also be used to basically highlight your keyword phrases. So the next couple of sections will look at how to do this. Domain names and keywords. Domain names, or URLs, same thing, is basically the address of your website. So for instance, if you're Microsoft, your domain name would be www.microsoft.com. Now, if you're a plumber in Perth, and for sake of argument the business is called Dave's Plumbers or something like that, then you don't have to use the domain name daveplumbers.com.au, because people aren't searching, if they're searching for plumbers, they're not searching for Dave, they're searching for plumbers. So if you're creating a new website from scratch, you're far better off using a domain name or URL, which basically is a combination of the words that you're expecting people to search for, because this is a way of basically recycling your keywords within the domain name. So for instance, if the domain name, for instance, perthplumbers.com.au was available, that would be an ideal name to have. In many cases you'll find that if you make a list of the domain names you'd like, in a lot of cases they've gone, so you might have to have an alternative, like instead of Perth Plumbers you might have to have Plumbers Perth, or you might have to have something like Plumbing Perth or whatever. So basically a lot of the good domain names have already gone, but you should find that if you make a list of all the different phrases that you want to get found on, you should find that one of those at least is available. A little trick, incidentally, that a lot of people don't realize is that, let's say you wanted the domain name perthplumbers.com.au. That's more than likely already gone. So what you can do is have a domain name with the number 4 in front of it. So you can have the number 4, so it would be for perthplumbers.com.au. And a lot of people don't know this trick, but it's almost as good as having the domain name without the 4 in it. But it works both ways, because 4 obviously can be interpreted as FOR, but in actual fact you're just using the number, and you'll find that's a really nice little trick for getting domain names that otherwise would not be available. So you can use 4 and 2. So for instance, if you wanted a website called, for sake of argument, learnseo.com.au, if that domain name had already gone, then in that case you'd be able to have www.2learnseo.com.au. Again, number 2, not the TO or TWO or whatever. So a nice little trick there to get domain names that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get. Not quite as good as the domain names without the number, but next best thing. HTML page structure. Now the good thing is you don't have to learn all about HTML. It stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and this is basically the code behind a website. So when you look at a website page, you as a visitor see the text and the pictures and all the rest of it, but what Google sees is the text behind the pictures and the text and everything else. So it sees the code, the HTML code. So here again I brought up the website, in this case badwebsites.com.au. If I want to look at the code behind this, I just simply right click on it, go to where it says view page source, and at that point I can see the code behind it. So we're now looking at the HTML code. And as I say, you don't have to worry about all this stuff, it's not really important. But broadly speaking, you'll see there is a header area at the top, and this is where you put stuff for the benefit of Google. And then there's a body area, you can see it starts here, and the rest of this area here is stuff you'll see on the screen. So this is basically the website as a visitor would see it, and if you right click and go to view source, this is how Google is going to see it. Now the important thing is you've got this header area up here, that's seen by Google, and as you can see that's not displayed on the page, but this area downwards, the body area, that is the area that's displayed on the screen. That's what your visitors are going to see. So as I say, you don't have to worry about all the details here. It's just important to know that within the header area there is a title, a description, and you have these keywords here which are not important for your website, but as we've seen can be important for investigating keywords that other people think are important on their websites. Now the HTML title area. Again, if you go to a website and click on a blank area and go to view source, you can see you've got this line here called title, and all websites should have a title. As I said, the title is not displayed on the screen, it's there for Google's benefit, and this is incredibly important for SEO. So in this particular case we've got a website which, as you can see, it's called badwebsites.com.au, and basically it lists the most common errors that people make when they're writing websites. So in this case I should have a title which should reflect the content, and indeed it does. So it says top common mistakes and errors found on bad websites. Now that's a pretty good title for what it does. If I wanted to attract local traffic, I could put something like Perth.wa, but in this case I'm looking for sort of international or national traffic, so I'm not particularly interested in just localizing it to say Joondalup or Perth or something local. But as I say, I can't stress too much how important it is to get the title right, because this title is the best opportunity you've got to tell Google exactly what your particular page is about. So there's a couple of common errors people make with titles. The first one I see over and over again is somebody creates a title for the home page and then they use exactly the same title for all the other pages. Google doesn't like that at all. Google likes unique titles on every single page of your website. So if you've got a website of 15 pages, you should take the time to create 15 different titles for each of your pages. Each title should be unique, and also each title should reflect exactly the contents of that particular web page. As I say, it's a very common error that people make, where if they've got 15 pages, they use exactly the same title for all the pages, and Google can detect this, and Google doesn't like that. So give Google what it wants. In terms of SEO, there's two types of SEO. Remember, SEO is search engine optimization. There's on-site SEO, which is basically anything to do with your website, and then there's off-site SEO, which is basically links from the website plus your social media, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Now, in terms of on-site SEO, the SEO you can do on your actual website, the single most important item, bar none, is the title. That is how important it is. So if you spend time getting your title right, even if everything else is not that great, that in many cases can raise you up in the search engine results. Once you get the title just spot on and you combine that with a good description and you do everything else just right, then you're pretty well guaranteed to start rising up the search engine results. But as I say, you should have a title that's unique, reflects the actual page content, and also is as pithy as possible, but packs in your keywords in a natural sounding way. Another common mistake people make with a title is they will have just a series of keywords with commas, and it's a list of words rather than an actual title. And again, Google doesn't like that. Google likes a natural sounding title. So in this particular case, you wouldn't want something like website, comma, mistakes, comma, errors, comma, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. So titles should sound natural. The HTML description. If we bring up a website, right click and go and check out the source, you should find that most website headers, remember this bit up here is the header, most website headers should contain this thing called meta name description, and the description can be longer than the title, and strictly speaking it's not used as part of your SEO, but if you've managed to get your website displayed, say on the first page in the top 10 results, you're then displayed along with 10 other website competitors. And the idea is that if you've got a nice spot-on description that describes exactly what you do, describes where you are, and gives people basically what they're looking for, then a good description can really help get your website clicked on. Because it's all very well being displayed in the top 10 results, but as I say, you're 1 of 10 generally, so the description really helps to get people to click on your website as opposed to one of the other 9 people, one of your competitors. So that's really the importance of a good website description. As I say, it's not displayed within the actual page itself when people look at your website, but when you do a search within Google, what you generally get are 10 different pages being displayed, 10 different snippets as it's called, and the snippet is generally made up of the title, the description, and the URL address. And as I say, a good title makes a difference between someone clicking on your website in the search engine results or somebody else's. Now, the HTML keyword meta tags. As I say, it's important to realize that when we're talking about keywords in general, we're just simply talking about the keywords that people are going to search within Google to find you. So, for instance, if you're a plumber, your keywords would be things like plumber's Perth, plumbing Perth, etc. Now, the HTML keyword meta tags is something different. That's just that little line of text within the header area of some web pages. So remember, if I go back to a website here, if I right click on an empty part and view the code here, remember this line here, the one that says meta name keywords blah 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 content, and then you've got the list of phrases or keywords, that is the meta keyword tag or statement within the header area on a particular web page. Now, as I've said, Google completely ignores this, so you don't have to worry about this. What you do have to worry about is the title and description. They're important, but these days the meta keyword tag there that you can see, that is completely ignored by Google. The only reason it is useful is if you're investigating your competitors, and if they've got a keyword statement in there, then basically you can go and borrow a nice long list of keywords that they may have developed over the last 10 years, and that will help you immensely in focusing on what keywords are important for your particular business. But apart from that, it's utterly useless. Right, heading tags within the web page. So in this chapter we've looked at basically how to start getting your list of keywords together, and then we saw how you could use tools from Google to actually define the keywords that actually get searched for. So at the end of the day, you've got a list of keywords. We've seen that you can use them in things like your title and your description, and obviously within the text of your web pages. Now, another important thing, certainly as far as SEO is concerned, is knowing about headings. Now, a heading is just simply a piece of text within your web pages that's been formatted as a heading. So you can have header 1s, header 2s, header 3s. If you're used to using headings in Microsoft Word, it's exactly the same principle. Now, what I've done here is I've opened a sample website within something called WordPress. If you're not familiar with WordPress, I'd strongly recommend you think about using WordPress if you're creating a new website to create the website. Alternatively, if you're using other software, you might want to think about converting to WordPress, because used correctly, WordPress is very, very easy to use and update, and it can be made very SEO friendly. Remember, SEO is search engine optimization. Now in this particular case, I've got a page here where it's just simply got some text in it. Now let's say this line at the top, if I wanted to mark that as a header, it couldn't be easier. I would just simply select it. In the case of WordPress, I'd click here and I'd say mark this as a heading, and you can have different levels. I'll select heading 1 here, and not a lot seems to have changed, but basically what you've done to Google is you said to Google, this text here is marked as a heading 1. So it's a way of basically drawing Google's attention, saying this phrase here, this is important. So there might be loads and loads of other text, but the point is, because you've taken the trouble to highlight this particular line as a header 1, and if I click within it, you can see it is marked up there as a header 1. That basically means that you can pack this line with your keyword phrases. So at the moment it says backup software is a one-off cost of only $85. So you could do backup software for use in Perth, WA. This is not. Let's change the typo there. Sorry, change the typo. So we've got backup software for use in Perth, WA is a one-off cost of only $85. So in this case, it's not a particularly well formatted or put together heading, but you kind of get the idea that basically within items marked as headers, you can put the important keyword phrases. So if we go down here, we could have maybe another heading. We just type one in, so we could type in something like backup company Perth, Western Australia. And what we could do is we mark that one, so we'll select it, then we can mark that one as a header 2. And if we click within it, you can see that it is header 2. So again, we're telling Google that the words backup company Perth, Western Australia, I mean, that's pretty well spot on in telling Google, you know, what's important about this particular page. So in this particular case, I'm doing the page modification in something called WordPress, but if you're using Dreamweaver or any other package, if you're doing it yourself, they're all basically the same. You just simply select an item and select the header you want. And you can have header 1s, 2s and 3s and 4s and, you know, different levels. The important ones are header 1s and header 2s. And as I said, the whole point of doing this is basically to get Google to focus on what text is contained within the headers, and that's basically where you pack your keyword phrases. But again, don't repeat them too often. Make sure that you use different headers on different pages. Don't recycle the same old thing, and make sure they are unique. Right, what are alt tags? Alt is short for alternative. Basically, if you've got a website and you've got a whole load of pictures in it, then Google doesn't understand what the pictures are about. You could have a picture of, say, a computer, or you could have a picture of a cat, and Google doesn't know the difference. All Google knows is that you've got a picture in there. It might know about the file name and what sort of vertical and horizontal size you want the picture displayed at, but that's about it. So the idea of alt tags is basically a little line of hidden text you can put behind a picture for Google's benefit. So what you can do is, if you've got, say, 4 different images on a page, you can use 4 different hidden lines of text, which the users won't necessarily see, but Google will see. And Google actually likes it when you do this, providing you don't over-egg it. So if you're going to use alt tags, don't use the same alt tag for every single picture. Google will penalize you for that. What you should do is use alt tags behind each picture that ideally are descriptive of that particular picture. The original purpose of alt tags, they were for people who might have visual impairment, and the idea is that the people with a visual impairment can have special software, so when they move the mouse over the picture, that basically would read the alt text and they would get an idea of what the picture was about. So that's the original idea, but also Google uses them. So basically, if you use alt tags and if you use them correctly, then it's basically a win-win. You're helping Google and you're helping people with visual impairment get the best out of your website. just to show you how incredibly easy WordPress is, we'll actually add a picture. So I'll click on where it says Add Media. I'll click on a picture, it doesn't really matter which one, I'll select that one there, and I'll click on where it says Insert into Page, and there's my picture. That was really easy. So this kind of illustrates how easy WordPress is to use. If I click on that picture to select it, and then click on this little button over here that says Edit Image, over here you can see the alternative text. By default it's just simply taken the name of the picture. Bear in mind this particular website is all about doing on-site backups. You could simply type in the term on-site backup company Perth WA. Now, as I say, you have to be a little bit careful doing this because you don't want to egg it too much, but basically you've seen this text here, on-site backup company Perth WA. That text will be associated with this picture from Google's point of view. So Google will then think, instead of just having a picture which it knows nothing about, it then says, so this site is all about on-site backups. It's a company in Perth WA. And if I just simply click on Update there, that's been updated. So I can then just publish the picture by clicking here. And if this were a real website, I would have basically inserted the picture there, and I would have updated that, and it would have had the alt text behind it. Localizing a search to a suburb or city. Again, if you're starting off with a new website, then you've already got a whole load of established competitors you're trying to compete against. So let's say, if we take the example again of a plumber, if you're a plumbing company just starting off in Perth, then what you want to do is try and localize all your search phrases so that, let's say you were based in Joondalup, you would want to initially go for search phrases like plumbing company Joondalup or plumbing services Joondalup, or the variations thereon. Once you started getting found within Google for searches for your particular service in the suburb like Joondalup, then you could start going for searches in your particular city. So for instance, you could do something like plumbing services Perth. So start local, then sort of spread out from there. That's probably the best advice. And you'll also find that if you start off initially targeting searches for your particular suburb, you will find, because there's so many different suburbs, there's less competition, and you've got far more chance of initially gaining interest from your local potential customers. So as I say, don't straight off the bat try and get found in the first page of Google for something like plumbers Perth. That's going to be harder to do. Go for the suburb first, build up, and you'll find that as you start rising up for local searches, Google becomes aware of your website. Google starts indexing all your pages. You start getting a history with Google, and then you'll find it easier to sort of start promoting your website at sort of city level or even nationwide level. So for instance, if you just wanted something like Plumbers Australia, if you're a national company, that's going to take a little bit more work than going for Plumbers Perth. Now use local names in the keywords. As we've seen, when you first start off, you want to really go for ideally business at suburb level. And quite often people say to us, well, we've created a website, we're based in Joondalup for sake of argument, and if you type in something like Plumbers Joondalup, we can't get found. And quite often it's a very simple reason that the word Joondalup doesn't actually appear anywhere within the website. It sounds kind of really obvious, but you'd be surprised how many times you see this. So the first rule is, if you want to get found for a particular keyword or phrase, you must use that text at least once somewhere within your website. And ideally you could, on most websites, if we stick with the plumbing analogy, we could have the words Perth Plumbers or something like that down the bottom of every single page as a sort of a tagline at the bottom of the page. So that's the way you should start thinking about things. Basically, if you want Google to find you, then you have to work with Google and help it on what you want to get found with. Now, Google Local Page, this is an absolutely brilliant facility from Google. You've probably all typed in a search for a local search and you've got a little map displayed. Let's actually try this. So here I am within Google. If I type in a phrase like Perth Plumbers, you can see I've typed in the phrase Perth plumbers. I've got the usual paid for ads here, and over here I've got this little map with the pins in it. And if we scroll down a little bit, you can see this one, this one, and this one. These are 3 websites displayed in the normal way, but if you look underneath that, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items in this case, which basically relate to this map over here. So as I move down here, these ones here relate to the map up here. And the reason that these websites are displayed there is because they've basically taken the trouble to apply for this Google local pages, which is free, and they've supplied the information to Google, and once that's been done and once it's been optimized and set up in the correct way, then they'll be displayed on this map. Then it comes down to the fact that if you've got, in this case, I think 7 different items being displayed, 7 different companies being displayed, one is at the top and one is at the bottom. And the reason for that is partly to do with closeness to wherever you search for, but it's also to do with how well the actual Google Places page itself was optimized, because you'll find that when it comes to search engine optimization, it's not just one thing you do and then forget about it. There's lots and lots of little things and lots of different elements. And here's an example here where you can apply for this Google local page, totally free. You just got to know where to go and get it. It's applied by Google itself, so it's tied in with the Google results. And as you can see, even if you're not displayed in that or that, if you can be displayed in this area here, then it means you're above all these people down here. So it is possible to be displayed in the normal results and in the local area here. And that's really what you want to try and achieve, because that way you get yourself 2 listings on the first page of results. So as I say, this is all about what's called Google local pages. If you want to do it yourself, just simply go and search for it and you'll find information from Google. But it's one of those things that it's got to be set up correctly, because if it's set up correctly, you've got a far better chance of being displayed at the top than down at the bottom here in the local area results.